Hello, welcome to Alchemize Yourself Tarot. I'm going to be discussing twin flame polarity and the idea that one twin flame is dark and the other is light as a spiritual metaphor, not a fixed rule or universal truth. In many twin flame teachings, both twins mirror each other, reflecting light and shadow aspects equally. But how that plays out can vary based on where each person is at in their healing journey. So the basic idea of twin flame polarity is that they're two halves of the same soul. And I discussed this before. I don't believe that you're actually an incomplete or split soul, but you do have a duality to you, a negative and positive, a light and a shadow, a feminine and a masculine polarity within you. So the split soul concept comes from that. So you're definitely going to be carrying that yin-yang, masculine, feminine energy within you. And these energies often manifest as polar opposites, which creates deep attraction, but it also creates intense conflict. The dark twin as an archetype is often called the runner, or the one still deeply entrenched in ego, fear, or avoidance. This is the person that shows up as the person resisting the connection, right? Or the trigger upheaval that occurs. And it symbolically represents, the shadow, the karmic pattern, or the unhealed trauma aspect. So a lot of times a person that's in that dark twin archetype is mirroring back a lot of your own wounding. So it's like an externalization of your shadow. That's why you're magnetized to the person. And the light twin archetype is usually labeled as the more spiritually aware person in the connection, called the chaser, or doing the inner work and holding space for like a union. This represents the conscious mind, awakening and divine love, unconditional love. But the shadow aspect of that light twin archetype is that it can fall into the trap of spiritual bypassing or overgiving. So the important truth here in these archetypes is that they both carry light and shadow. You carry this light and shadow just like the other person carries their own light and shadow. And there's like this dance of these polarities occurring between the two people based on that external manifestation of those polarities. So the dark archetype may actually carry deep spiritual gifts hidden behind all the wounds. And there's deep spiritual gifts hidden within your shadow as well, where the light archetype often has to confront their own codependency, control issues, or savior complex. So they're both, both polarities can slip into that shadow. And it can be very easy sometimes for the light twin or polarity to kind of overly focus on the darkness of that dark twin archetype. But it's actually an externalization of the inner wounds that you're actually needing to heal on your own. That's why I feel like this is an individual, independent journey At the end of the day, it's not really about that person. That person's just triggering that inner work going on, especially if you're awakening to it. So this inner unity consciousness has both the shadow and the light need to be integrated into wholeness in order for you to get into that unity consciousness. It's not necessarily about you getting together with a twin flame and getting married and being together for all eternity. I mean, some of you will experience that, but it comes after both of those polarities are integrated. So it's a very mystical concept, a very alchemical concept. And it can be very powerful, right? But you need to ask yourself, what shadow are you being asked to integrate? What light are you meant to embody? And how you can hold compassion for both that light and that shadow. Because eventually you're going to have to face your own shadow. It's not necessarily about them being the dark twin or you being the light twin. At the end of the day, it's about yourself. And there is a risk involved. Some of you are having to take a risk, but you're being divinely protected at this time because you may be coming into awareness of what's going on here. Especially if you're dealing with somebody in that dark shadow. Some of you have been divinely protected by them rejecting you or being in separation from that person because you're needing to go through this integration process. And the shadow themes that come up are like fear of abandonment or rejection, jealousy, control, obsession, codependency, emotional triggers, inner child wounds, and unresolved karmas, ego battles, separation phases. So this divine protection is a blessing in disguise, right? You don't necessarily need to be with a particular person if you're going through this because you're just it could end up being too risky. The light, the higher self, the divine love, the unconditional love side of yourself is deep soul recognition and love beyond conditions. So loving yourself no matter what, and spiritual awakening, intuitive gifts, emotional and energetic healing, purpose activation, divine mission, reunion and harmony with yourself first and foremost. Because eventually you're going to get to where it's not so much about that person. It's about, integrating your own shadow. So it's like a little dance going on between these. It's in constant movement because you're never fully in your light and you're never fully in your shadow. You start to recognize your patterns and how there's a fluidity to it. Or that's the way I see it. When you're integrated, there's actually a little bit of a fluidity to it, and you're conscious of it. So there's kind of like this meeting and activation, right? And that recognition, maybe through that intense chemistry. Then you're triggered, your wounds are arising, and then the shadow starts to dominate. And then there's that healing and growth. Right now, some of you you took the risk, you took that plunge, and now you're being protected. Spirit's like putting some boundaries around the journey at this time. So we're going to explore this a little deeper here. And we're going to get into this dance of shadow and light that could be occurring in your connection at this time. What is the shadow you see in this person? You know, because sometimes the shadow that you see in this particular person, or even people in general, are things, you know, shadows within yourself. So what is the shadow? What are they mirroring back to you at this time? Knight of Wands, creative, energetic, and adventure. This person could be very passionate, fiery, very physical. So they're mirroring back ways in which you're needing to express your own creativity, your own sense of adventure. And, you know, sometimes the Knight of Wands gets labeled, the player of the tarot, but it's really just that need for adventure, for expression, to take, the need to take a risk, because some of you are very protective and you're needing to get out of your comfort zone. And this person does that, right? Maybe that's why you're attracted to them. They're very vibrant. They're very physical. They're very energizing and fiery. Maybe an aspect of yourself that you've denied. You limit yourself when it comes to taking action. You know, Knight of Wands is very courageous. They don't hold back. So they could be mirroring back ways where you've been holding yourself back, not taking risk, not taking action. Or they trigger that in you, like especially if you're, pursuing, it could like trigger you to take action. And the shadow that you're reflecting to them is the Four of Swords, this need for peace and healing and recovering. So while they're very active, you're triggering areas where they need to slow down, where they need to heal, where they maybe need to be more contemplative. So these are very opposite energies. Yet Knight of Wands is being out in the world, doing something, pursuing things. And the Four of Swords is all about being very protective of your energy. So it's like that could be the polarity that's playing out here. So one person takes risks. They like to just go for it, where the other person is a lot more self-protective. And that's triggering to both of you because it's the opposite. So that's interesting how these cards actually really show how the other energies are playing out. But the light that they're actually awakening in you, the light that they're awakening in you is Nine of Swords in the reverse, getting out of your comfort zone. Could be that this person is trying to get you to be less fearful, getting you to take risk, especially when it comes to your creative but that could be a big part of your mission, is to go places, to do things, to put yourself out there, to not be so stressed and anxious. So this person brings out that side of you where maybe in some ways you've always judged people like that are too risky, or you label them as impulsive, or maybe they label people like you as too introspective, not active enough. And you're meant to bring out the aspects that you lack as strengths instead of things that you reject in yourself. And this person may reject that need for rest and stillness and introspection. You don't want to overly introspect because then you get anxious and stressed out, right? But there is this need for peace and recharging and slowing down sometimes. What's the light that you're offering this person? Well, Six of Pentacles, you're teaching them that they need to learn how to give and receive. They need to be more generous. They need to be more balanced. Could it be that this person doesn't like to material and, be committed? Six of Pentacles can imply a certain level of commitment when it comes to giving and generosity. Having a balance between giving and receiving. They're evolving through balancing out generosity, and you're evolving by relaxing and taking, being comfortable, taking a certain amount of risk, and knowing that you're protected in doing so, right? The current dance step, what are you and this person? Where are you? Where is the current dance step that's playing out here? Well, right now, someone's holding back on making an offer. A seed has not been fully planted. Concrete ideas. There's definitely not a plan of action yet. Nothing is solid. And it could be that this person is needing to be more committal. Maybe that's something that they're not wanting to take a risk with. Neither one of you may be wanting to actually commit to anything just yet, or actually plant a seed. So definitely there hasn't been this breakthrough yet. Someone's going to have to take risk and feel confident in doing so. But the lesson here to integrate, what's asking to be healed or embodied is Ten of Cups. Being happy, being fulfilled. Long-term emotional fulfillment. There's definitely that resistance. A little of hesitancy. Both of you are being very self-protective, not ready to invest in anything solid or a commitment. This could actually be a newer connection for some of you. Or if you've been doing this dance for a while, it has to do with commitment. Being open to something long-term. What does that look like? What does it mean? What does long-term fulfillment and happiness look like for you? What does it look like for this person? There's definitely a lesson in that, like discovering your long-term goal, your purpose. But it takes, being willing to make a risk to get there. And the potential here, is Four of Pentacles. Yeah, needing to get out of your comfort zone. I often see the Four of Pentacles, or when it's in reversed or upright, is somebody that needs to be willing to take a risk, right? Not being fearful. Four of Pentacles can be somebody a little stingy or uptight, not wanting to invest, not wanting to make or take any financial risk, right? Or, needing to let go, needing to break out of comfort zones. So, yeah, karmic justice, balance, and fairness is something that you and this person could be learning. And that's that yin and yang, that giving and receiving, something being reciprocated. Both of you are fearing reciprocation at this time, is what I'm getting. Maybe feeling very unhealed or imbalanced, not feeling complete or whole. A lot of times people aren't ready for commitments when they still have a lot of healing to do. When you see fours in a reading, it's all about security and stability. This relationship could trigger that feeling of instability. And you're seeing this Knight of Wands energy as very transformative, though. Yeah, you're feeling very energized. You're feeling very creative. Very transformative. Fire. Fire is a very transformative element. It's exciting, right? And that's what this person does for you. And you bring a certain amount of stillness and peace. So the shadow you're reflecting to them is control. Maybe they like to have a certain amount of control because they feel broken. You know, Four of Swords does require a certain amount of control to be able to meditate, to be at peace. But they're maybe feeling broken and they feel like they have to control a situation instead of just being at peace and healing. They want to fix something. And they're very curious. You've definitely triggered this person's curiosity, right? How do you do it? How do you heal? How do you fix things? So it's activating for them to see how you've maybe overcome something. But this person definitely has control issues when it comes to giving. But the light that they awaken in you is they help you to get over your fears. So they're breaking you out of your comfort zone too. The light that they're creating in you is peace, waiting. Maybe you've been waiting. You've been fearful of going after your dreams. And they're also wanting forgiveness for anything wrong that occurred in the past. So they're awakening your need for forgiveness, transformation. This person could have kept you waiting for a long time. And you're learning to just break free from it. You're learning to no longer be stagnant. And that piques their curiosity. Having you wait is a way for them to control the situation, to hold back. Yeah, destiny's time. Yeah, time. You know, this person could be taking a long time to offer any level of commitment. And that can be very frustrating in these kind of dynamics. Because then you're going through a transformation. Your shadow is restless and they're slowing down, curious, needing to break out of a sense of needing to control by withholding. Because the light you're offering them is that there can be equality, reciprocity. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. So the light is options, right? You're giving them another option, a solution. The solution has to do with balance and fairness. You know, sometimes people have wounds when it comes to feeling like they have to control something. They're not really open to options. Shh. So the current dance step, the current is wedding. Ooh, someone's not ready for commitment or marriage. They're not ready to take that leap of faith. They're just not ready for that. That would be a big step for this person. They may be able to see a long-term commitment with you, but they're not ready for that. And they're needing to integrate what it means to be happy, right? A web of lies, okay? could be a lot of deception around what the two of you value, what you want. Someone's not being honest about what they truly want. They're trying to control it. They're trying to keep their options open. They don't want to lock anything down yet. And in that case, there's a certain amount of acceptance that comes with that. But the potential here is stagnation. Yeah, Four of Pentacles can be stagnation. If no one makes a move to get out of this stagnation, you could be in a holding pattern, but it's like the passion is like a really big driving force here to get out of stagnation. It's like the passion starts overriding that need for control at a certain point. You can play games, you can create a web, but at a certain point you're going to still have a strong desire for one another. Because when you're trying to control a situation and not give or make anything concrete, yeah, it just creates a lot of just waiting, and someone could end up sabotaging this by not making a decision, by not doing anything. And it's like a never-ending cycle of pain. Definitely not a place where we're wanting to be. And this is where your transformation comes into play, because you're not going to want to sit. You're going to want to move your life forward. So the light and shadow here, making a decision. And you can't wait on somebody just to come around and commit to you. You have to keep moving forward with your life. You don't want to be stuck in waiting. That's the danger of connections like this. Waiting for that next hit of passion. That's not going to get you anywhere. Making peace. In the midst of adversity lies the path to self-discovery. So making peace, right? Four of Swords, needing to take a risk, surrender, not try to control, and facing that inner demon. Don't be afraid of darkness. There's light nearby. You're transforming, you're integrating. Don't fear losing this person. Never stop the forward movement of your life. That could be the shadow here that you're transforming, that you're integrating. Because, and also don't let somebody control you with passion and desire. That's where that intensity, that's where that anger is coming from. Uncertainty is the only certainty there is. Yes, someone needs to realize that no matter what, you have to surrender to your curiosity. This person's needing to surrender to that curiosity, be willing to take a risk. And you do too. Have faith in your own path and not be dependent on somebody else. So I will close it out here. And yeah, good luck on your journey and integrating these light and shadow dynamics. And don't allow this journey to consume you. I love you guys. Bye.